everybody, I'm Maritza Barone, and this is the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you heard or read or were told something that you simply could not unhear? Something that caused you to make positive changes so that you could become the best version of yourself? Well, we share this show with access to inspiring and empowering humans who will motivate you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate you. Sit back, settle in, and let this be the day you hear something that simply cannot be unheard. Hello and welcome back to a new episode of Things You Can't Unhear. I am Maritza Barone and I am the host and creator of this show. Thanks for being here. If this is the first time you have tuned in, and all of our loyal listeners, welcome back. Today, I had the pleasure of welcoming Colleen Callander to this podcast. She's most well known for being the big boss of Sportsgirl and Sussan, holding the CEO position in both companies for many years, working her way right to the top, starting from a retail position in her late teens. She has now stepped back from those roles and is constantly reinventing herself, armed with all of the experience she's gained from many years as a leader, including the highs and, of course, the lows, and also from doing her own inner self-work. Colleen shares so many right downable ideas and insights during this chat that will inspire us to lead with kindness, go for it no matter who we are or how old we are, be confident in our approach, and so much more. I thought she was great, and I may have even referred to her as a legend a couple of times during this conversation, but I think she was pretty happy with that. So tune in, take a listen, and of course, let me know what you think on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram page. I'd love to hear from you. Welcome to Things You Can't Unhear, Colleen Callander.
Oh, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here with you, and really great to see you today.
Thank you. I love your name. It's such a stage name, Colleen Callander.
Really? Oh, that's a whole nother story. My first name, my nickname's actually Ollie. Everyone calls me Ollie because I've never liked my first name. So, but thank you for saying that. It might change my mind on it now.
I love it. And both of the words together roll off the tongue really well. So it's just like, maybe there's like a future in, as a stage girl or something amazing. I can see it up in lights, that's for sure. Now, where are you joining us from, Colleen?
I am in Melbourne, and I did just say to you prior to this podcast, you look so fresh and vibrant in your beautiful, singlet top, and you're obviously up north, and here I am in Victoria, which is quite cold down here today. But yes, I'm in Victoria.
Yeah, we were saying just before we hit record, everyone, that I've put my black clothes away since I've moved up north, and they're all just hanging up in my wardrobe waiting for me to visit Melbourne again.
It is very Melbourne. Black is very Melbourne. Easy.
Did you grow up in Melbourne?
No, I'm actually a Geelong girl. I was born and grew up in Geelong, which was a fabulous upbringing, actually. And I didn't move to Melbourne until I was probably in my early 30s. So it took me a while to sort of get me away from Geelong. So, but all my family's still down there, or a lot of my family is still down there. So no, I'm a Geelong girl.
Well, Geelong is a beautiful part of the world as well. And, today we've invited you on because you're obviously the ex-CEO of Sportsgirl and Sussan, and we want to dig into the mind of a leader like yourself, and someone who sort of is very interactive in creating their own pathway forward and doing things a little bit differently. So I'm excited to dig into all of that with you, get to know you on another level, and find out maybe, and hear something, I suppose, that we can't unhear that will help us all to create positive changes in our lives and in our careers. So I just want to start off. I know you've spent 30 years in retail and you've obviously got a passion for fashion. I want to know, what are your natural talents? So what do you find that comes easy to you? And have you built a career around that?
I definitely do. I think, I always say to people, if you can't find your purpose, find your passion, because your passion will lead you to your purpose. And I've always been very passionate about leadership. not only my leadership, but the leadership of those around me, particularly women. But I've always been very, very passionate about people. I think all roads lead back to people if you are a leader. So, from a very, very young age, I was very intrigued by the way people behaved. Why were some people kind and others cruel? Why were some people greedy and others generous? Why were some people creating environments of collaboration and others environments of fear? So I was very intrigued about why people did this. And I think, Maritza, that I decided very early on that I wanted to be a leader by design, which, as you know, is the title of my book. But I wanted to be a leader by design. I wanted to create the leader I wanted to be. I wanted to be the leader that I wanted to have, the leader I wanted to be, and a leader that people would choose to follow. So I really went on this journey of creating the leader I wanted to be. But I did that through really learning and listening by observation and really, drawing on the people that were around me. So I think my talent, or my passion, if you want to call it that, all comes back to people.
And putting people first. I love that. So you talk about your team and the team that you had throughout your career. How do you think they would describe you as a leader?
Well, I think that described me in some very positive ways because they stay with me for a very long time. So I also think that's the sign of a great leader, when people want to continue to follow you. I think they would say that Cole is a kind leader. Kindness is one of the things I'm very passionate about. And when I talk, Maritza, about kind leadership, I don't mean that people can just do whatever they like. I don't mean that people can fly under the radar or there is no accountability. For me, kind leadership is about having honest, open conversations with people, holding people accountable, giving people feedback, treating people like human beings, pushing people beyond their comfort zone, and building true human connections. I believe kindness is the new superpower for leaders. It's the leadership style I've lived in for a very, very long time, and one I encourage leaders to move into today. It is a new currency for leaders, and it is one that we can trade for high performance and trust and loyalty. And so I talk a lot about this new era of leadership that I want people to move into. So I think the first thing that would come to mind if you spoke to any of my executive team or people that work for me across Sussan or Sportsgirl over the 20 years would say Cole's a very kind, connected leader.
I hope as many people take that on as possible, because we are at work for so many hours of our day and our lives. And if we can do it with a happy heart and a happy face and a happy mindset, then everyone is going to absolutely win from that. Now, we recently had Janine Ellis on the show and heard all about her adventures into an incredible leadership position and where she's come from and gone to. And it was incredible to hear her story. You and her seem to have a very similar starting pathway, where you both left school quite early and perhaps didn't take the traditional route into where you are now. I'd love to hear about how your journey started into your career.
Yeah, we do have a similar story, actually. So if I step back to when I finished school, year 11, I was 16 years of age and I got a job at my local Just Jean store. And I'd worked in the family businesses growing up. In fact, I can remember working from as young as I can remember because I just loved to work. I loved to know about business. I wanted to know how to make money. I wanted to know what money meant. I wanted to know what made the world go round. So I was, again, very, very intrigued. So at 16, I started at the local Just Jean store and I worked all summer. I literally didn't see the light of day. All my friends were out having fun, sun, boys, having a great old time. And I just worked because I loved it. And at the end of that summer break, they offered me a full-time role. They said, Cole, we think you've got potential. We'd really love you to stay on with the team. And what 16-year-old young girl wouldn't be excited for someone to say to her, I think you've got potential. So I was just thrilled. I thought, oh, this is fabulous. And I loved it. So I went home and I told my parents that I wasn't finishing school, which was quite disappointing for them at the time because neither of my parents had an education. They both finished school around 14. And so here I was saying I was going to throw mine away. They'd given me a great education to this point. I was going to throw mine away, but I had potential. And in that moment of disappointment, I could see in their eyes, they said to me, my father actually said, be passionate, love what you do, work hard, and never give up. And they're the words that have stuck with me for my whole life. And I've tried to apply them to every single thing that I've done, not just in my business world, but in my world in general. And so off I went, 16-year-old, turning 17, and I started in the world of fashion. And by the age of 18, I was the youngest youngest store manager in the company. By the age of 20, I was promoted to the youngest area manager for country Victoria, overseeing 16 stores. And by the age of 24, I was running Victoria with 54 stores and 3 direct reports. And that's where I stayed for the next 4 years of my career. And I kind of look back at that now and think, wow, that was like a whirlwind of sort of career progression in a very short time. But I did what my father said. I worked hard. I was passionate. I gave it everything I had. And then in 1999, I got the call from Sportsgirl asking me to come and join them. And of course, who would not be able to say yes to an incredible, iconic fashion brand like that? So I joined Sportsgirl in 99, and little did I know at that time that that was going to be my path for the next 20 years of my career. So yes, I did spend 20 years with the Sussan Sportsgirl Group, and 13 of those as CEO. I had 6 years as CEO at Sussan, and then 7 years as CEO at Sportsgirl until March 2020. And then I decided it was time to write my next chapter. I do my life in sort of big increments. So 20 years in one company. I was also turning 50, and I thought, what does my next decade look like? And so I literally wrote my next chapter. I wrote my book. I started my own business, and I did a lot of passion projects, and I've had the most incredible couple of years. And all of the things I've done have just been so incredibly rewarding, and in the space that I love, which is leadership and empowering and inspiring women particularly.
I love that. And you know what I love from what you just said is the reaction your dad gave you, the words of encouragement that he gave you, and how he really uplifted you with this powerful statement that you still use to this day to push you forward and act with confidence. Is it advice that perhaps you would give your kids too if they had come to you? I'm not sure if they have. I know you've got kids approaching that age and beyond, and going potentially into university. What have you said to your children around this age mark that you came to your dad with?
Yeah, it's a great one. It's a question I get a lot. And I think that the first thing I would say is life's changed a lot over the last 30 years. And, we could have walked out of school and got a job anywhere. There were career paths. There were a lot of traineeships. There was all those sorts of things. Not that there aren't those today, but I look back and I do think it was a bit easier back then. There wasn't social media. There wasn't all of that sort of stuff. I've got big kids now, as I was saying. My son Jake's 25. He's just finished a double degree, and he's about to head over to Japan to work for a couple of years. My other son went to NIDA acting school, and my daughter's doing year 12. And I've given them pretty much the same advice as my father gave me, which is be passionate, work hard, and love what you do, because I believe that is the recipe for success. If we get up every day and we've got a fire in our belly and we know why we're here, then we will be successful in whatever we choose to do.
Your dad obviously seems like a big mentor of yours.
He is a big mentor, absolutely. He also is someone that I try and impress every single day of my life, even in my 50s.
Yeah.
And I think that that's sometimes maybe a father-daughter scenario. I'm not sure. I've got an older brother and a younger sister, but my whole life I was trying to prove myself. And I very much am a people pleaser as well, which doesn't end very well for the person who does all the pleasing. We'll probably talk about burnout at some stage in this interview. But I very much wanted to impress my mother and my father all my life. That meant a lot to me. And as I said, I'm 51 and I still do that today. So I think there are some things that just never leave us.
Yeah, I love that. And I know obviously that both your parents were mentors of yours and you learned so much from them growing up. Were there other people that really stood out to you in that time when you were growing up, or perhaps something that you were reading, or something that you saw that really fascinated you and you thought, oh, maybe I could do that. Maybe, I'm inspired to act in that way?
Yeah, I had one incredible mentor, and I don't even think I knew what the word mentor was back then, or role model, or I just knew I thought she was amazing. I love what she stood for. I loved her energy. I loved how kind she was. I loved how she put people first. And I write about her in my book, and I've spoken about her on podcasts. And she was the area manager who came down and said to me, Cole, we think you've got potential, and we'd really like you to take on your first managerial role. I just turned 18. And in that moment, I was so excited, and I thought, oh, wow, how exciting is this? I've done exactly what I was meant to do. I've worked hard and I've made an impression and I've done all the things that I should have done. And then in that next moment, I had complete self-sabotage. I went from this young girl who was so excited to hear those words to self-doubt, which is, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. What happens if I fail? Other people might be better than me. I'm only 18. How can I take on a managerial role? People are going to be older than me. And she could see my mind working overtime as this happened. And I said to her, I don't think I can do it. And her words to me were, I believe in you. And now you need to believe in yourself. And those words have stuck with me for my whole life. And it's something that I try and emulate now, is really believing in people, because often that's the first step to them believing in themselves. So in that moment, she believed in me. And if she hadn't have, if that may have been someone different offering me that role, that may not have been my path. But I knew she believed in me, which also translates to, I'm going to support you. I've got your back. I'm here to help you. And we need more leaders doing that today. Absolutely. Because we don't have enough of that. We have people that get offered positions, they do a great job and then they get put into a leadership role and then all of a sudden they fail. And that's because they're great at a job, but no one helps them be a leader. No one believes in them. No one has their back or coaches them along the way. So that person, her name's Vivian, she was probably one of the big, turning points or role models in my life.
Vivian, if you are listening, you're an absolute legend. Yeah. You know what? Many, many times I've heard people say you only need one person to believe in you in order to move forward. And it's, I don't know, you've probably told Vivian what an impact in your life that she made. Yeah. And you've paid it forward so many times, I'm sure, to so many people in front of you. So if you're listening out there today, maybe choose someone who works below you or with you, or a family member that you can elevate, that you can inspire and share words of confidence with them in order to move forward in an inspired way. I love that. We can all learn from that. Now, you mentioned this briefly, and we've touched on all of these amazing highs in your career and how you've gotten to where you were and all of these amazing wins. But in every career, there's always lows as well. And I think it's really important that we do share those today as well, because, it's not all airy fairy and magical stardust all the time. And, being in this high leadership position, the stress that would come with it would probably be quite intense as well. You are also a mum raising 3 children. Tell me about this burnout situation that happened and what actually was going on in your life and in your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It was probably the toughest point in my life, but it was also a gift in so many ways as well. So it was 2007 and I had 3 young children. I think Macy was like 2 or 3, Trent was 7 and Jake was 8. I was acting general manager of Sportsgirl at the time, and I described myself, Maritza, as a red Ferrari. And a red Ferrari that had never put petrol in the tank, never pulled into the pits, never put air in the tires, never gone in for a service. This red Ferrari knew no boundaries. It just kept going faster and faster and faster until it couldn't. And I'm still that red Ferrari today, by the way. I just know how to drive her a little bit differently these days. But, I actually hit a wall, and I came home and said to my husband this night, I can't do it anymore. And this was a build-up of a period of time where I was just completely and utterly spent. I had nothing left in that tank. If we think about a car on empty, it ain't going anywhere. And that's exactly how I felt, this red Ferrari that was empty. And so I went in the next day to resign, because I thought that was my only option. I needed to put myself in for some well overdue self-care. And lucky for me, I got talked out of that idea. And instead, So they wouldn't accept my resignation. And instead, I took 3.5 months off, and I did put that red Ferrari in for a very well overdue service. And I went to my happy place, which is Sorrento, where my holiday house was. And I completely reinvigorated my life. And as I said, burnout for me was an absolute gift, because if I hadn't have hit burnout, I'm not sure where I would have ended up. So I did a whole lot of things in that 3.5 months. I got myself a coach. I surrounded myself with people who loved and cared about me. I set myself some boundaries. I had to learn what my values are. I had to learn who I was without all the hats I wore. So not a CEO, not a mum, not a friend, not a wife, but who was I? Who was I really authentically?
Who am I? That question we get to. Who am I?
Who am I? And it's a really big, it's one I work with women today, because, we can be 50 and still not know who we are. So I really had to put in the work. And as I said, I'm a people pleaser. So everyone else comes before me. And many women are often people pleasers as well, because that's our makeup. We also have, children and things like that. So we often put others before self. And as I said, it always works out for the other person. It never works out so well for the person who's doing all the pleasing. So I had to learn that self-care was not selfish. Self-care was really important, because if I was good to myself, I could be much better to other people. So as I said, I completely changed my life. I learned how to say no. I put boundaries in place. I had a start and finish time. There was all of these things. And then I returned 3.5 months later as the CEO of Sussan. And I then lived my CEO life for 13 years, and I did it without burnout. And it's an incredible place to be. And it's incredible what you can achieve when you have a full tank.
How did the people around you react to the new Colleen, after the changes that you had made within and around you, and learnt to say no and learn to put yourself first and fill your cup first? Was there a reaction from those around you?
Yeah, I think for me, if I had have gone straight back into the sports girl business, there probably would have been, because there were no boundaries. You could come into my office anytime. You can book into my calendar anytime you like. It is always open. There is no out of office sign on here. But because I moved from the general manager of Sportsgirl and went back in as CEO of Sussan, so I literally was promoted during that time. I went into, and when I say that, there were 2 levels in the office. One was Sportsgirl, one was Sussan. So I really just returned on a different level. So I had a whole new audience. I could literally reinvent myself. And so that's exactly what I did. But it's never too late to reinvent ourselves. And that's what I always say, particularly women, that I'm not sure whether you've just got women listening to your podcast, but this is men or women, but particularly women, it is never too late to start. It is never too late to reinvent yourself. It is never too late to open a new chapter, ever. Until I take my last breath, I will continue to evolve as a human, to learn and grow. I say we never arrive at anything. I'm never going to arrive and say, I am now the most incredible leader of all time. I am now the most incredible mother of all time. We are on this journey of learning. And as we grow, we learn. I talk about when our children are little, we're learning to, navigate as a parent with little children. And as your children grow, you are learning. I'm learning every day to be a parent. My children, as I said, are in their 17 and in their 20s, and I'm learning every day to be a better mother. And so I think that's really the gift that we've been given, is that when it's never too late. It's never too late to keep learning or evolving or reinventing.
And keep becoming better versions of ourselves over and over again. I remember Matthew McConaughey saying once, his biggest hero is himself in 10 years. Because
it's amazing.
Going to evolve into this person he wants to be in 10 years' time, and actively, consciously choose to do it. And I think that's a big thing too. Let's try and avoid the burnout. Let's listen to these journeys and these stories from people like yourself who have actually experienced them, see the signals that life is giving us and saying, hey, that could be me. I'm actually not putting in any time for myself right now. I am overdoing it. I'm feeling the pressure. I haven't felt happy or relaxed in a long time. Take these cues, because I feel like listening to things like this and hearing them, they're cues that help us perhaps go, okay, I can make the changes before the rock bottom hits.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. And when we hit burnout, it doesn't just affect us. We think, okay, and it affects people in different ways, right? So someone's exhausted, some people have lack of sleep, some people have insomnia, some just can't make a decision, some can't get out of bed. But the thing about burnout is it does come in different shapes and sizes, but it affects every single person around us because they don't get the best version of you, your children, your work, your colleagues, your husband. I call burnout a bitch. Burnout is a bitch. Right. And so we really need to recognize those signs because I work with a lot of people, as I said, particularly women that are either on that burnout train right now or they've hit burnout town. And so I really want women to recognize those signs so that they can either get off that train and not hit burnout town because that train is like a bullet train. It stops at no stations. It just goes straight to burnout town if we don't recognize what we're dealing with. So there are so many signs and so many things that we can do and build into our lives to get off that burnout train.
How are you maintaining this lifestyle where you're not burning out? So, for example, how do you start your day? Are there things in your morning that you tick off to make sure you filled your own cup first?
Oh, I love that question. I am an achievement junkie, right? So achievement is one of my values. I have 5 values. Achievement's one of them. So I have to tick off lists all the time. So this morning I've already done, before I even opened my computer or looked at my social media or looked at anything on my phone, I'd already done 8K with the dogs to the beach. So that's the way I fill my tank. That doesn't exhaust people. Go 8K, oh, that's a lot. That doesn't exhaust me. It fills up my tank. So to your point, to your question, it is really important how we end our days. How do we start our day and how do we end our day? Some of the most successful people that we will meet, one of the things they have in common is routine, is structure, is discipline. And so really, really important. And I will start my day like that pretty much every day, rain, hail, or shine. I'll do between 5 and 10K every single morning because it's what fills my tank. It lets me breathe. It lets my brain have some time. It lets me think about things. And it's a really beautiful way to start your day. So I would very much encourage women to really build those rituals into their lives, whatever that looks like for you. You have to do an 8K walk before you start your day. You might do a little bit of meditation. You might just sit and write in your journal. You might just enjoy your first cup of coffee without any children tagging on you, whatever it might be. Whatever fills your cup up for the day, please add it into your routine.
I did this exact thing yesterday and even posted about it on my Instagram feed. I went and climbed Mount Coolum at 5:30 in the morning, watched the sunrise, and it was the most beautiful view I'd ever seen. And it was the first day of school holidays, and I knew that the kids were just going to be, what are we doing now? Where are we going now? What's next? Entertain me, feed me, all of that jazz. And I knew that if I go and do something for myself first, I will be happier and more relaxed for them for the rest of the day. And guess what they woke up to? A happy mama with a big smile on her face.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well done.
Yeah. So hopefully I can fit a few more of those in during the week as well. Now, you mentioned achievement being one of your values and you had a few more under your belt. What are the rest of your unwavering values?
Yeah. Achievement, kindness, family, health, and integrity are my 5. And they're all really important. Family is obviously my number 1. Health is also so important because I have to keep myself fit and healthy and, do all the right things, get enough sleep, eat right, exercise, keep my brain healthy, all those sorts of things. Achievement, I'm a massive achievement junkie. I have a list every single day. And I do not stop until those lists are ticked off. And if they don't, they go on the next page for the next day. Integrity is hugely important to me, and kindness is the way I live my life in every aspect of my life. So my values haven't changed for about maybe 10 years.
You mentioned you had a coach. Is that something that you dug in with your coach to try and get conscious on and aware of your values?
Absolutely. I had no idea who I was at 36. I knew I was a great mom. I knew I was a great general manager. I knew my people loved me. I knew all of those things. I knew I was a great daughter, all the things, but I didn't actually know who I was. And so working with my coach really brought up it's like when you get a coach, and I coach women today, it's like putting a mirror up and being really honest with the person in the mirror. Who am I without all of the titles, all that I wear? What's really at my core? I talk about it as the babushka doll. We open the babushka doll until we get right to the center of who we are. That's when the magic happens, when we have self-awareness. Again, the most successful people I've ever worked with or seen in my life are the ones that have self-awareness. The really bad leaders I've ever worked with in my life are the ones that have no self-awareness. So yes, I work with my coach on a lot of those sort of things. I actually then got my coach to work with my leadership team as well. So really important. We can surround ourselves, again, particularly as women, surround ourselves with mentors, role models. And if you can get a coach, absolutely. They definitely are game changers.
I love that you passed this gift onto your leadership team as well. I think I'm like that. And it's pretty much the reason why I started this podcast, because I was meeting so many incredible people and hearing their stories. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got to tell everyone what they said, because my life has benefited so much from it. And I love that you've gone and then gifted that to the important people in your team so that they can move forward and be happier in their own lives and careers.
Yeah. Leadership starts with self. Everyone says to me, Cole, you've been a leader for 13 years or, longer than that, but a CEO for 13 years. How do we be great leaders? And the first thing I'm going to say to you is 70% of leadership starts with self. Okay. And again, that's where so many leaders go wrong. So many leaders think leadership is about leading other people. Leadership starts with you, the disciplines you put in your life, the structures you put in your life, the way you face positivity in the eye of negativity. I always say you never judge a leader in calm waters. You always judge a leader in rough waters. That's when you truly see how leaders perform. So leadership starts with us leading ourselves and really understanding who we are at the core.
I've almost got to grab my notepad and write notes, because you're saying so many amazing one-liners, Colleen. They're brilliant. They're brilliant. Thank you. Now, I've had a similar journey where I've sort of had to reassess who am I and what am I doing all of this for? And I had 15 years working in media and production, and didn't really work out why I wanted to share my voice and what was the reason that I wanted to be standing in front of a camera or a microphone. I was just almost like, yep, I know I can speak well and I know I can do it. So just hand me a script and then off I'll go. And reached a point in an age where I wanted more and I wanted to know why I wanted to speak. And I run sessions on that now called The Power of Voice. And it's so beautiful to see that transition and realization with the people that I run the sessions with, when they have that drop, that awareness of why they want to share their voice. So I want to ask you, how integral do you think it is in finding our voice at work and at home to our happiness?
Well, thank you for sharing your voice, and thank you for creating a platform that also allows other women to share their voice, because it is absolutely so important. My whole thing is about inspiring and empowering women to share their voice, to step up, to lead with purpose, to lead with confidence, to know who they are. And when we do that, when we do lead like that, when we do have the confidence to share our voice, that's when we can put our hand up and ask for that pay rise and bridge that gender pay gap. That's when we can put our hand up for that promotion and be confident in our own skin. That's when we can walk in that boardroom and kill it with confidence. That's when we can say no to that toxic relationship. When we feel confident, and I do talk about all roads lead to confidence, and it's really important that as women, we are not only building our own confidence, but building each other's confidence. We are more powerful together, we are stronger together, and there is enough space in this world for everyone. So we need to be building each other's confidence, because the more we do that, the more we are going to affect change, the more we are going to inspire and empower women to share their voice and share their story. And everyone has a story. I've had women say to me, oh, my story is not important. I don't really have one. And within 15 minutes, I'm like, that is I love your story. It's amazing, right? Everyone has a story. So we now need to give women a voice, give them the confidence to share it, and give them a platform to share it on. So well done to you for doing what you're doing, because it is all about that.
Yeah, I was actually one of those people who said, I don't have an interesting story. I've got nothing to share. This was before I did the work, and I did this incredible course, and they made us list some life-defining moments, just a few life-defining moments, no matter how big, no matter how small. They could have been conversations that we had in passing when we were kids, or perhaps something that happened dramatically in our lives, whatever it was. And when you sit with pen and paper and map that out, even 3, 4, 5 things, and then you can continuously build. You start to remember, you start to build these life-defining moments that have shaped who you are. You can then go back and create a story library from those life-defining moments and literally have endless opportunities to share your life experience so that other people can learn and grow.
Oh, I love that. That is so absolutely true. And do you know, I love what you just said then. You said, before I put in the work. And so I love that, because we do have to put in the work. And life doesn't just happen. Well, it can, but it's not going to be what you want it to be. And I say to women every day, 12 months from now, a year from today, life is going to be different, right? Let's just think about what's happened over the past 2 years. 12 months from now, life is going to be different. The question is how. And is it going to be the life that just ends up happening around us? Or is it going to be the life that we shape, the life that we want, the life that we create, the life that we deserve? And what you just said is you put in the work. And I encourage everyone to put in the work. Work harder on yourself every day than you do on anything else, because you become more confident, you become more intelligent, you become more wise. And in turn, you can add value to other people. You can add value in other people's lives. But it does start with putting in the work.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, speaking of percentages, this is something that you touched on very briefly, and I heard it in one of your sentences. We're talking about women in leadership positions. What percentage out there in the moment in Australia of women are in leadership positions?
If we talk about CEO roles, there are less than 20% of women in Australia in CEO roles today.
Wow.
And for me, that was a number I was super proud of, being a part of the 20% club. Like, wow, that's fantastic. But it more than excited me, made me really upset. And it really does concern me that we do have less than 20% of women today in Australia that hold a CEO role. And it's a number that I'm committed to changing, whether that be through my coaching, my mentor me, someone reading my book and me changing the way they think about their life and their leadership journey. It is a number that we need to change, and we really need to be circuit breakers for change. We are seeing change, but we're not seeing it fast enough. So we need to be the change that we want to see. And yeah, so we have a lot of work to do, but I'm so passionate that we've got so many great women doing a lot of great work at the moment.
You're cool, Colleen Callander. I'm loving everything you're putting out there.
You're pretty cool. You're pretty cool yourself.
Watch this red Ferrari rip through change. I absolutely love it. I'm going to throw out some sayings, and I just want you to react to them. I want to get your take on these sort of common sayings that are thrown out every now and then. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
That is true. You can't have your cake and eat it too. But maybe you can create a new recipe. Maybe you can create another cake. Maybe you can find a new way or a new path. So I don't think we always have to look at things so black and white. There often is gray, and sometimes we just need to look beyond what is in front of us, what we can see, and look beyond that, because often there are different things and different paths forward beyond just what's in front of us.
What a brilliant response. Loved that. What about fake it till you make it?
Not a strategy. Okay. Not a long-term strategy. Sure, there are going to be times in our lives. We have all done a fake it till you make it, right? Whether you're in an environment where you feel a little bit like a fish out of water, you're like, I'm really going to have to wind it up here because I really need to look like I know what I'm doing. We are all going to have moments in our lives where we're going to fake it till we make it. Is it a long-term life strategy? Hell no. It's a recipe for disaster. So what I would say, instead of fake it till you make it, put in the work. Put in the work, build that confidence muscle. Confidence is a muscle. It's not confident. We are not born with confidence. Confidence is a skill, not a trait. So let's put in the work. Let's really build that confidence muscle. We can't go to the gym once and think I'm sorted. I've got it all. I'm good now. I don't have to ever go again. We have to go every day or every second day. We have to keep working it. So work that confidence muscle, okay? Because that's what will allow you not to fake it till you make it as a strategy. But every now and then we have to.
You heard it here first, guys. What about the term boss babe?
Boss babe. Oh, I love boss babe. I love boss babe. Some people might think it's a little bit, women being, but you know what? Own it. I think there's a lot of boss babes out there. And I think you've just got to own what you've got and share your gift. I have a lot of people send me messages and going, boss lady, love you, boss chick, whatever it might be. I don't get offended by that at all. I'm like, well, if that's inspiring one person to think differently or act differently, or I'm influencing them differently, then awesome. Nothing, it doesn't offend me at all.
Love it. All right. And what about your thoughts create your reality?
Absolutely. I think you have to create your reality. You have to create, no one is going to knock on your door and say, here's life, I'm going to do it for you. You have to do life for you. And I always say that we have one opportunity at this life. Now, maybe we don't, maybe we have more, right? We might end up back here one day, but right now, this is the one I've got and I'm going to make the most of it. So I am going to create the world I want to live in. I'm going to create the change I want to see. I'm going to be the leader that I want people to emulate. So for me, it absolutely is all about creating the reality and the life I want to live in.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? What do you think is your biggest motivator? You mentioned you're a people pleaser, but you've become aware of that, and it's probably not that anymore. You're not trying to please at the moment. But what do you think is that thing you strive for the most and that motivates you the most?
Yeah, as I said, I'm an achievement junkie. So I love to work. I love to be able to turn things from nothing into something. I love to be able to take people who lack confidence and self-sabotage to someone who is confident and applies for that promotion. So achievement is not just my achievement as an achievement junkie. Achievement is allowing other people to achieve. Achievement is changing that number from 20 to 30% into 40%. Achievement is, watching my children do great things and be incredible human beings with passion and purpose and living true to their values. So achievement means so many things on so many different levels. And I think that is the thing that is the number one word that probably drives me every day.
Would you say you're competitive?
I am competitive. Yes. Yes, I am very competitive.
I love it.
I've been competitive for a very long time, but I also have seen competitive behavior be very destructive as well in organizations and in leadership teams and things like that. So for me, I am competitive for myself. So I talk about, I'm not competing with anyone in this world. The person I'm racing against is myself. I'm competing with myself every day to be a better human, to be a better mother, to be a better leader, to be a better person. So when you compete with yourself, I think that's where you really get traction. When you start competing with other people, I think it can be quite destructive. I like to look at other people's success to say, well, if they did it, maybe I could do that too. If someone could climb Mount Everest, why couldn't I? If someone could run 15K, why couldn't I? Someone else can do it. So I use other people's success to fuel my behavior. I don't use it destructively to try and compete and be better. I use it as sort of fuel in my tank.
I love how you flipped the script there, because being competitive can sometimes be seen as a dirty word. And, you've really specified that you're not competing with others, you're competing with yourself. There was this quote I read once, says, "You can't compete with me. I want you to win too." And I loved it so much because it's struck so true for me as well. Yeah. Beautiful. Now, are you a reader? Do you love to consume books? You've written a book, but do you read books?
I go through phases where I will not read for ages and then I will read a book in a few days. But yeah, I love to listen to, because I walk so much and love that. I love listening to Audible, So essentially I'm reading books, but I'm more listening to them. I love podcasts. I really find that that's where I learn a lot about myself as well. So I sort of find by the end of the day, or I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I know that I've got to put the red Ferrari in for 8 hours sleep. Otherwise she doesn't function too well. So yes. I try not to read when I'm tired. So yeah, I try and use my time to sort of more listen to books rather than read these days.
Well, what would be in your mind now that something that jumps out that you recently listened to or read that was quite impactful on you?
I listened to he wasn't a Navy SEAL. He was like a Navy SEAL, and I listened to his story, and he actually got blown up out in Afghanistan, and it talked about his story. He was a leader, but he also reflected on what a bad leader he'd been in some cases, and then how this episode changed his leadership journey. And so, yeah, his whole story was really quite interesting and compelling. And again, it very much resonated with me because what he learned is that he was a leader that would tell other people what to do and believed that leading was about leading others. And this whole episode in his life that nearly took his life taught him that leadership is about leading self. So I loved that. I love listening to those kind of things.
Leading self. Absolutely love that. Well, we've loved to get to know you on this level, Cole. And I love what you're putting out there to the world. I want to know, finally, what's your idea of a good time? How do you like to have fun?
Oh gosh, a good time. I'm not super exciting. Like, as in, my life's pretty, people think, these CEOs, they fly around the world. Well, maybe not in the last 2 years. And, they do all of these amazing things, and they've all got private yachts and all that sort of stuff. That's not really the stuff that interests me at all. My real happy day is when I'm hanging out with my family. I love my kids. I love my husband. I love my dogs. And I just love doing some really simple things in life. We've just relocated down the coast. We've left the big smoke and relocated for quite a different kind of lifestyle down here. So I just love being with people that fill my tank up, real, genuine, authentic people. And, we could be sitting on the back deck having a glass of wine, or we could be walking on the beach, or we could just be sitting in each other's company. I think for me, I think the simple things are often the things that fill our tanks up the most.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've got my little conversation starter cards here. So I've got a company called Conscious Conversations, and we've got some starter cards. I'm going to pull one out just for fun, and then we can end our chat on that. What is something you are the most proud of?
My children. I'm the most proud of my children, for sure. Every road, everything I do leads back to my children. So yeah, I'm very, very proud of all of them. They're all very different. They've all been on different journeys, some harder than the other. But I'm very, very proud of the people that they've become. And I'm very proud of their values and the great humans that they show up in the world every day. I think that's the proudest thing for me. It's not got nothing to do with being a CEO. In fact, my children, I remember, tell you a funny story. My son, when he moved to Sydney only, a few years ago, someone said, "What does your mum do?" And he goes, "I don't know. She works at Sportsgirl." I go, "What does she?" He goes, "I don't know. She just works there. She works in the office. I don't know really what she does." And I've been a CEO for 13 years. So you know what? It doesn't impress them any way, shape or form. At the end of the day, I'm just their mum. Yeah. And so I think we always need to just remember who we are authentically, without all those titles that, become such identity markers for us.
3 lucky kids having you as their mama. Thank you so much today, Cole, for your wonderful time today and insights. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me again. And thank you so much for all the work you're doing. Keep up the amazing work, because we are changing women's lives one beautiful human at a time. So keep doing all that amazing work and creating this incredible platform that women can share and hopefully inspire and empower other women to start leading in their own lives as well. So thank you again for having me. It's been wonderful.
And I will put all of your links to your book and your website and your social media platforms on the show notes. So if anyone wants to connect directly with Cole, I'm sure she'd love to hear from you as well. Thanks again. Thanks for listening to the show. What did you think? And what did you feel? Let us know by leaving me a message on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram community page. And if you can, give us some ratings love on your favorite listening platform.